Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called The One He Deserved. Years ago, I used to work at a popular ice cream joint. The job was pretty chill, coworkers were fun to be around, and the pay was alright for a teenager. But as with every other food service job, the customers made the experience a whole lot worse. Always had the regular annoyances, people yelling at you for long wait times, orders being wrong, etc. Even had a guy get up on the counter and berate me because we were out of bananas for banana splits. But one experience really stood out from the others. We had a regular customer who would come in every day to get a strawberry shake. He was fine with long waits or if our card machines were down. But this dude would summon the might of Satan if his milkshake wasn't made with enough milk in it. Worse, he would sit there and wait until you remade it to his liking. A stupid store policy made us remake any order for free if the customer wasn't happy with it. One day, this dude comes in and orders, guess what? A strawberry milkshake. I was working the ice cream bar, so filled with defeat. I started making his order. The company recipe was 3 scoops of ice cream for a regular smoothie. But since I knew this guy liked his milky, I only put 2. I handed it to him and went about the next orders, until 5 minutes later he comes back and screams at me that the milkshake wasn't milky enough. Now, every time in the past, I always made it this way, 2 scoops to give it that milky consistency. This time, I guess he wanted to just mess with me. At this point, I had had enough. The day had been rough as it is, so I really didn't want to handle this, especially since I could tell with the grin he had plastered on his face that he was trying to make my day worse. I decided to make the milkiest milkshake possible, but while still being a milkshake by technicality. I went back to my station and started the concoction. I didn't put 2 scoops, I didn't put 1 scoop. I put 1 tablespoon of strawberry ice cream and filled it up to the brim with milk. After the pointless blending, I handed him the milkshake he didn't want, but the one he deserved. I watched him with my own grin beaming back at him while he tried his milkshake. He took a sip and immediately started berating me that it was just milk. I told him, "No sir, I put strawberry ice cream in there, just as you asked." I could see the rage in his eyes as he demanded his order be remade. I then politely informed him that our store policy only lets you have your order remade once for free. His face burned bright red as he muttered something under his breath, then stormed out the door, slamming it behind him. Every time after that, he never asked me to remake his order. A few months later, I got a better job where I didn't have to deal with angry customers. The next story is called It's a Lane. This happened yesterday. I was driving a semi on a highway when the traffic suddenly became bumper to bumper on a 2-lane due to an accident a couple of miles ahead. Everybody was creeping and I was on the right lane. Suddenly I saw a regular vehicle, not even an emergency vehicle, on my right side, shoulder lane, passing me. I was like, heck to the no. And as soon as I saw a couple of vehicles behind me trying to do the same thing, I immediately blocked them by going slightly to the shoulder, so I'm occupying 2 lanes. I got a few honks, but I couldn't care less. If I'm suffering in a traffic jam, everyone should do as well. Shoulder isn't for passing. As long as I didn't see any flashing lights behind me, I'm not opening the shoulder. We are crawling anyway. After a few hundred feet ahead, I saw an idle police cruiser on the shoulder up ahead. I figured that nobody would dare to use the shoulder anymore, so I merged back to my lane. Turns out I was right. The shoulder became empty all of a sudden, but that's not the end. While I was chilling, still creeping, I heard very annoying and repetitive honks on my left side. I looked and I saw this lady with huge sunglasses, a ponytail, bending down on her seat, looking at me, yelling something, looking outraged. I rolled down, and this is the following conversation. "You know you are blocking 2 lanes, right?" In confusion, I only said, "Huh? I was behind you on the right lane and you wouldn't move. I honked and you didn't care. That's a shoulder, you're not supposed to drive on the shoulder. That's a lane, you are allowed to drive there." While she's still yelling incoherently, we are still slowly moving. Then I remembered there's an idle police cruiser on the shoulder that I saw a while back that we didn't pass yet. I reduced my speed even more, so Karen is faster than me by a little bit on the left lane. Then I dared her by giving her the signal that she can pass me to use the shoulder. She aggressively took it, cut in front of me and immediately went to the shoulder. However, what Karen didn't know was that the cruiser is already around the corner. I was driving a semi, so my field of vision is much higher and wider than everyone else. Karen was driving a sedan. Her field of vision is much lower and limited. What I didn't take into account was how aggressive Karen was driving. She cut the corner too quickly without looking and ended up hitting the cruiser. It was so abrupt that I could hear the crash pretty loudly. I can also tell that the driver in front of me was gasping in shock as well. I have never seen an officer got out of the cruiser so fast before. This dude practically jumped out of the cruiser in less than 1 second. Then this is what I witnessed and heard when I'm creeping slowly with the traffic. Not wanting to miss anything, I rolled down my passenger window. The officer screamed, "Get out of the vehicle!" Karen was still inside her car and had the full fluster mode. Karen finally gets out and she said some of the stupidest words ever. "But I wasn't at fault. You were stopping on a lane. This is a shoulder for emergency, not for your convenience to escape traffic jam." Karen started to tell an incoherent sob story as I drove away from the scene. I couldn't hear what was going on anymore, but I kept watching my front as well as the side mirror. Judging from her body movement, she was indeed panicking while pointing at my truck. Don't know why. Then, before the scene disappeared from my mirror, the last thing I saw was that the officer pulled out his handcuffs and cuffed Karen. Surprisingly, she complied without causing any more scenes. Then I continued to drive into the sunset. The last story is called Don't Touch It. 20 years ago, I worked in the mailroom for a big company in Boston. It was our policy that when people ordered food for meetings, it was the job of whoever was running mail on the floor that the meeting was being held on to meet the caterer in the lobby. There we would take the food to the meeting room, set it out, then clean up the room after the meeting was over. Normally you would clean up during your hourly mail run and take the leftover food to the lunchroom. If we are not already on the lunchroom floor, you would take the food back to the mailroom and give it to the person that was running that floor. Now at this point it was normal for the mail staff to get first dibs on the leftovers. But some people didn't like that. One day my boss comes up to me and tells me that I'm going to have to come in Friday morning at 5 AM to set up the boardroom for an important partner meeting. I'm fine with that, extra pay and all. So I show up, set up a massive spread of food and head down to the mailroom to waste some time on the computer. 15 minutes later, I get a call from Quill's secretary, the one that was in charge of the meeting. "Hey, the meeting was cancelled. Can you get the food and bring it to the lunchroom? Keep it in the mailroom first so the guys can get a free breakfast if you want. Sorry about wasting your time." So I trot to the boardroom with a growling belly, thinking of how great it's gonna be to get first dibs for a change. There's no food. None. Gone. I go check the lunchroom. Nothing. Puzzled and hungry, I tell my boss and start my mail run. About halfway through the run, I come across the desk of an awful secretary. Lo and behold, all of the food is behind her desk, stacked on cabinets and desks. I asked her, "Is that the food from the big meeting?" "Yes, it is, and you are not touching it." Cool secretary asked me to bring that to the lunchroom. "I don't care, you guys will just keep it all for yourselves." I send a message out to everyone, telling them that I have the food, and if they want some, they can come ask me for it. But you are not to touch it. Okay, you don't have to get mad, I'm just doing my job. "No, you are not. You are trying to steal food that you didn't order." At this point, I'm thinking to myself that she didn't order it either. Cool secretary did. But it's not my place to fight, so I just go back to the mailroom and tell my boss that I found the food and that she was adamant that we not touch it. He's like, "Whatever, we'll talk to Cool secretary Monday when she gets back to the office with her partner." So now it's 5 PM and I'm doing my last run of the night. As I pass by awful secretary's desk, I see that she had already gone home. And she left all of the food stacked around her desk. Following her orders, I touched nothing. Monday morning comes and my boss has an evil grin on his face. "Can you deliver these cleaning supplies to the awful secretary's desk?" I show up to a glorious mess. The gallon jugs of orange juice that awful secretary had left on her desk had fermented and burst open. It looked like they had rolled onto their sides as they swelled and shot across the room. It was awesome. "Why didn't you clean this up Friday night?" "Because you told me not to touch it." A memo went out that morning reminding people of the meeting food policy. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and would like to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. And if you want to support me even further, why don't you check out the channel membership? I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.